work on the electrical. This ball valve here I cut off from the prototype, and you can see there's heat shrink solder connectors on here, and that's the same thing we're going to do, but we're going to add an additional piece of heat shrink in an attempt to waterproof this as much as possible. So that's what you're about to see. When I was doing the electrical, I ran 3 wires under the van. Each one of the wires, I made it a different color. Since these ball valves don't require a lot of current, I just used a low-cost extension cord. This one is a dark hunter green, so I know that this is for the ball valves. I have 2 ball valves here, and they both are going to need 12 volts. This extension cord has 3 lines in it, or 3 wires in it. One of them will be ground, and they both share the common ground, and the other will be the positive. One positive to one ball valve, one positive to the other, and that way I can control the ball valves independently, draining one or the other, or both at the same time. They'll be on 2 separate switches. I also ran another extension cord that's white, and I'm going to use that extension cord for some LED lighting that I'm going to put on one side of the van where the sliding door is. And the third wire I ran was a 12 gauge wire, which is the marine grade wire that is for the heating pads underneath these tanks. Those can pull up to 9 to 10 amps, so I needed a 12 gauge wire. But by using different extension cord colors, if you're going to just be doing your LED lighting, which is low current, it's easy to tell things apart. And while you're building the van, it might not be a big deal, but a year or 2 later, when you kind of forgot what you had done, it may come in handy. Hopefully that helps out. So let's get on with the wiring of these ball valves. I'm going to take this wire and I'm going to make it kind of long. I'm going to make it long enough that I could actually pull these ball valves to the outside of the van and work on them there. So I'm going to have kind of a long wire here, and that's on purpose. I can easily zip tie it up here, and maybe I'll need that wire later, or if for some reason I need to pull this out, it'll be easy to work on in the future. So yep, that's good enough. And we're going to cut these right here, and that's extra. And we'll strip these, and I gotta go get the connectors. I'll be back in a moment. So what I've done here is I've made 2 of my solder connections. One of them is ground, which both ball valves share the ground wire, and one of the ball valves, the positive wire, goes to the black on this extension cord. The ground, I decided to use the green. Then on this other one, we got one left here to go. On this other ball valve, we're using the white wire for the positive, and let me get that wire in there with it, and we'll heat this up, and this will be our last connection for the ball valves. You got to make sure those 2 wires pass each other right where that ball of solder is. You simply heat it up with the heat gun, and you'll see the solder melt. Got to plug the heat gun in again. Alright, here we go. Okay, our 3 connections are made, and then I'm going to let those cool down a little bit. And then ahead of time, as I set this up, I put, remember, this piece of heat shrink, clear heat shrink tubing that I'm going to slide over all of those once this cools off. The one thing you don't want to do is start sliding this heat shrink when that's still warm, because before you get it on there, it'll shrink up and you won't be able to move it any longer. Boy, I made that just the right length. It'll cover both pieces of insulation on both sides. Would have been nice if it was a little bit longer, but it will work. Before I go put all my tools away, I'm going to add 2 little extensions here for the actual drain of the water. So I cut myself 2 little pieces of PEX pipe here. I'm just going to add those now, and then I probably won't need my crimpers again for a while, unless I goof something up. Two, and now we can put these away for a little while, and that's good, and I can cut those and shorten those whenever I want. Don't know if it's necessary, but it's easy to shorten them, more difficult to lengthen them. You can see here I've completed the bracket that supports the 2 ball valves. It's held up by 2 stainless steel bolts. So if I ever need to replace those ball valves or get to them in the future, it'll be easy just removing these 2 bolts. And I also put zip ties in to hold the ball valves from bouncing around. This will also protect the ball valves from getting hit from any road debris.